We are live on YouTube.
Okay, good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. I want to thank all the district managers and agency representatives who are on the call this morning. Today, we are pleased to be joined by the New York State Office of Cannabis Management and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. This morning, OCM will be providing us with updates on the recent issuance of the first conditional adult use retail dispensary license across the state, including here in Queens. OCM has also received your questions that you all submitted to our office and will respond to those concerns that were expressed. Representing OCM this morning is Pascal Bernard, who is the Deputy Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. Pascal is joined by Philip Rumsey, who is the Manager of Intergovernmental Outreach. Welcome, Pascal and Philip, and you are good to go. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I think, Phil is here. We are also, we're gonna run a slide. So I don't know if we have
Yes.
ability to share. We do? Okay.
You should, yes, thank you.
Okay, so Phil will upload the slide. And I know some of you have seen, we did a previous presentation with the Borough President's Office. So this one is just, it's different because a lot has happened since the last time we joined you. So we do thank you all for your patience as we kind of get this going. All right, so we will start. So as we know, cannabis is a plant that's used for various purposes. You can find it in industrial, food, wellness, recreation, medical, and pharma. And you know, the hemp plant and the cannabis plant are the same, with the exception that the hemp plant, the adult hemp plant, contains 0.3 less percent of THC than cannabis, and THC is what gives the euphoric feeling. Next slide, please. And so, as many of you may remember, you know, cannabis is legal in the state. It is for people 21 and over. You can possess up to 3 ounces of flower, up to 24 grams of concentrate, and it can be consumed in the privacy of your home or a state licensed on-site consumption. Currently, we have not licensed any on-site consumption. Wherever cigarette smoking is not allowed or vaping is not allowed, cannabis is not, smoking cannabis is not allowed as well. Next slide, please. And so the MRTA was signed into law March 31st of 2021. And really what it did is it removed cannabis from the penal code and really put it into a public health perspective. And so really the MRTA, I like to say, is a 3-legged stool. The seat of it is public health. And then the 3 legs are public safety, social justice, and economic development. Next slide, please. And so we here at the Office of OCM, we oversee adult use recreational cannabis, medical cannabis, and the state's hemp program. And so when the MRTA was signed into law, it really, again, remember the 3-legged stool. So social justice and economic justice was a big part of it. And so it automatically expunged records for people with cannabis arrests and convictions. 40% of the monies will be invested from the revenues of adult use cannabis will be invested in communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs and prohibition. And there is the MRTA sets the goal of 50% of all adult use licenses going to social and economic equity applicants. And we are also charged with developing a social and economic equity plan. Next slide, please. And so this is the part that, you know, touches on the economic development portion of the MRTA. And sorry about the pinging from my phone. And so really this is a weight-based tax, you know, that we in New York State will be following. And so here on the slide, you can see what the milligrams THC per milligram tax is. And 9% of the state excise tax, 9% state excise tax will be on sales of cannabis products by retailers to a cannabis consumer, and 4% local excise tax will go to the local municipality. And so 25% to the county and 75% to the city, town, or village. Next slide, please. And so what will be done with the revenues? And this, I'd like to just say, think about it in 40-40-20, right? So 40% will go towards education, 40% will go towards community grant reinvestments, and 20% will go towards drug treatment and public education. And the community grant reinvestments will be focused on communities, again, that were disproportionately impacted by prohibition and other social equity initiatives as determined by the Cannabis Advisory Board. And the drug treatment and public education will go to statewide campaigns. And would like to also point out, even before we made one sale, we started out as an agency with public education. We are now on to our second or third public health education campaign. Next slide, please. So what are the opportunities in the cannabis industry? So here we have, these are the MRTA licenses. And so as you can see, there are 9 license types: retail dispensary, on-site consumption, cultivation, nursery, processor, distributor, delivery, adult use cooperative, and micro business. Now, everybody tends to focus when they think about the industry on the retail dispensary. I like to call this the Beyonce of licenses because everybody loves Beyonce, but there are certainly other licenses. And, you know, we strongly encourage people to look at all the other licenses. And so as people may be reaching out to the community board, for those who are interested in entering the industry, again, there are 9 license types. And so, you know, we strongly encourage people to really look at all the licenses and really think about what would fit their skill sets and their interests. Next slide, please. And so we in New York State, unlike so many other states, are doing a tiered system. And so as you can see, there are 4 different tiers. There's a supply tier, the retail tier, the medical tier, and the laboratories. No one person may have direct or indirect interest across the tiers. This includes any stock ownership. And so in doing this, what we're doing is ensuring that, you know, no one person or business dominates across the tiers. And also it provides more opportunities for people to be able to enter the industry, particularly people that come from communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Also our distressed farmers across the state, as well as, you know, our disabled veterans. And so it really does provide with more ownership opportunities across. Next slide, please. In addition, our executive director, Chris Alexander, who actually is from Queens, and our board chair, Tremaine Wright, they've talked about creating a healthy cannabis ecosystem. And so while for the 9 license types that we saw in the previous slides, you know, you need a license. OCM must issue you a license to engage in the cannabis industry with those 9 license types. There are ancillary businesses where you do not need a license from OCM. And this is another way for people to enter the industry. And it helps create a healthy cannabis ecosystem, because these businesses will need ancillary support. And so this slide just provides you with, you know, just some of the things that people should consider. And it doesn't require, again, a license from OCM. And so if someone is an accountant or has a real estate business, it really is about turnkeying their business to cannabis. And so we have our proposed regulations out, the MRTA proposed regulations, and my colleague Phil will talk about it in his portion of the presentation. And so it's about really understanding what the regulations are and really turnkeying their business to be able to provide services to the cannabis industry. For people who may have, you know, a security company, for people who are graphic artists, all of these things, because this is a highly regulated industry and our regs really they get very granular. And so people are able to really see what is needed. And again, they will be able to turnkey their industry, their businesses to service the industry. Next slide, please. So the conditional adult use retail dispensary, conditional adult use licenses. So there were 3 conditional adult use licenses. These were standalone licenses that created a micro cannabis ecosystem really to help jumpstart the industry. And they are outside of the MRTA. So we saw the 9 license types for the MRTA. And so here we really have 3 license types. We have the adult use conditional cultivator license, the adult use conditional processor license, and the adult use retail dispensary license. And so you have to grow it, you have to process it. And now we're at the point where we are starting to open up retail dispensaries across the state. Next slide, please. And so for the adult use conditional cultivator, we've issued about 280 licenses with additional applications under review. And for those people who were eligible for the license, they had to have been in good standing, been a New York State farmer, and in our conditional hemp program. And for the conditional cultivator, we've issued about 38 licenses with some more under review. And now we are at the point where we've begun to issue adult use retail dispensary licenses. And in order to be eligible for what we call CARD, again, which is the conditional adult retail dispensary license, an individual or eligible family member you know, had to have a New York State cannabis related conviction and experience owning or operating a qualifying business. And so the eligible family members would be a parent or guardian, a child or dependent, or spouse or ex-spouse with proper documentation. And there are also nonprofit organizations that were eligible. And so to be a eligible nonprofit, you had to be intentionally servicing justice of all people and were engaged in some social enterprise and meeting other required conditions. And there are 2 nonprofit organizations from your borough that actually were awarded the nonprofit license. And so really, again, this was to jumpstart the industry. And we, on November 21st of 2022, we issued 36 licenses towards the target goal of 175. And this is 175 across the state. Next slide, please. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Phil Rumsey, who will take you through the rest of our slides. Phil?
I will unmute myself. Perfect. Thank you, Pascal. Yeah, I want to talk about OCM enforcement activities. The illicit market is something that the Office of Cannabis Management has been addressing really since the very beginning. It started October 21st of 2021. Both Chair Wright of the Cannabis Control Board and the Executive Director, Chris Alexander, issued statements on gifting. I'm sure everyone's aware of this, but to be clear, gifting is when you give money for a nominal product and you receive some cannabis. So there might be a stack of stickers on the side. You give someone $80 for some stickers, and then they slowly push cannabis across the counter and say, here you go, we're gifting this to you. This is a complete misinterpretation of what was in the MRTA. And we've been trying to make this abundantly clear again since the second Cannabis Control Board meeting. In January of last year, we began issuing cease and desist letters to suspected violators. We've been putting out a press release that outlined our efforts and what's going on and what we're seeing across the state. Enforcement action. So our enforcement division has been conducting investigations into brick and mortar locations that have been identified to the Office of Cannabis Management. The enforcement division is constantly talking with local law enforcement, local DAs about what can be done in order to crack down on these brick and mortar locations. We are continuing to build up and build out our enforcement division. As we're doing so, they're continuing to visit the illicit sites. They're issuing more cease and desist letters and doing spot checks on stores and assisting local law enforcement in their activities. Recently, New York City Sheriff and OCM were able to impound 16 illicit dispensary trucks in New York City. Right now, we're using existing laws which are on the books to try to crack down on, again, this brick and mortar problem that we're seeing. That means using any building or zoning code, healthcare laws that are pertinent. We're using nuisance and abatement laws to crack down on these. In other words, anything that already exists that might give us a way to get into these stores and find them or confiscate their material, we're using right now. One of the reasons that we've seen this pop up is, one, people are simply engaging and are okay with having an illegal, non-licensed brick and mortar store. And also, the MRTA gave the Office of Cannabis Management jurisdiction over licensed entities. It's very similar to how the State Liquor Authority has power and responsibility over licensed entities.
Mr. Rumsey, please, acronyms, we don't know all your acronyms. So MRTA, please explain. I apologize for interrupting.
Okay. Yep, MRTA, it's the same reference that Pascal made a few times. The MRTA is the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act that was passed in March 31st of 2021. That was the original law that established, as Pascal said, the Office of Cannabis Management and the boards as well. So the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act again gives us ability over licensed entities. We only have one licensed entity at the moment in the state, making the rest illegal. And in order to crack down on this problem more, we are working with the governor's office and the legislative branch to come up with new legislation this session. And we certainly hope to be, pushing this forward very, very soon. Hopefully in the coming days or weeks. That's going to give us more power. It's going to give us jurisdiction over cannabis as opposed to just licensed entities. And it's going to give, we're essentially partnering up with or properly utilizing the Office of Taxation, New York State Tax Department, where we're going to be able to really focus in on the taxation part and larger fines in order to make the retail brick and mortar retail stores very difficult for them to continue this way. This includes not allowing them to collect sales tax and making sure that the owner of the building understands that the possible tenant is involved in this illegal activity, and really working the taxation side of the issue. If you do come across stores like this or want to flag anything for us, the email at the bottom of this slide, complaints@ocm.ny.gov, that's the best one to use. We can throw a little additional information in the chat of what we're looking for. If it's possible for you to send in more information, but the complaints email is the best way to flag these for us. They get into our system. We can monitor them. We can launch investigations. And if we know that someone is willfully ignoring our cease and desist letters, continues doing this after we've talked to them, it will interfere with their ability to get an actual license from OCM, or the Office of Cannabis Management. Home grow in New York State. So currently recreational home grow is not legal in New York State. We're asking into the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act stated that people would not be able to grow for recreational purposes until 18 months after the first dispensary opens. You do have to be 21 years of age, and you can grow up to 6 plants for personal use. That's 3 mature with flower budding and 3 immature plants. However, medical patients can grow themselves as of October 5th of last year. This is for certified patients and their designated caregivers who are 21 and older. We are one of the few states that allow people to grow their own medication. We've found that different strains and different types of cannabis help individuals with different problems. So allowing a person to kind of narrow down what works best for them and then legally growing it at home is something we're proud of, and most states do not allow. So retail sales, kind of the meat and potatoes here of what we're talking about. Retail guidance, we can throw that in the chat, and we can also send it in an email later. This retail guidance we issued October 28th of last year, and it outlines a lot of what is expected of retail dispensaries and their owners, including inventory tracking, location security, branding, marketing, signage. All card licensees will have to review and sign this agreement and make sure that they're in compliance. And again, for a general understanding of what's expected of individuals in retail guidance, this document is very important, very useful. And again, we can throw it in chat and also in an email later on. Many of you should have received this, but we want to make sure it's fresh in your minds. MRT regulations. So just this November 21st of last year, the Cannabis Control Board did approve the adult use regulations. Some of these included the role municipalities will play in regulating the cannabis industry, the environmental and sustainability standards, general business operating requirements, security, bookkeeping. These regulations were officially filed on December 14th, and that kicked in the 60-day public comment period. We certainly want to hear from yourselves, your constituencies, on what they think of the proposed regulations. We're asking individuals by email, if you can email regulations@ocm.ny.gov and tell us what you think of these regulations. We want to hear from individuals outside of our office. We want to hear what you think works, what you think doesn't work, what you think can be improved upon. And so the 60-day comment period goes until February 13th for the initial 60-day. So you have until then to review and make some suggestions. Staffing and training at dispensaries. So I do want to emphasize that we're going to be having an employee who is in charge, kind of a main point of contact. They must be 21 years or older. They will act as a general manager or main point of contact with OCM's compliance unit. The person will have to submit any required reports and keep up with compliance requirements, ensure all dispensary employees are trained. There will be a training manual. Again, that retail guidance document I just referenced in section 4, it lists some of the training issues that employees will have to go through. And I just kind of want to emphasize if the Department of Health wanted to contact a pizza place that they've been getting complaints about, nothing against pizza places, I probably go to too many as is, but if you call there, you might end up talking to someone who is in charge of the chicken wings or is in between deliveries or something. At a retail dispensary, OCM will have a singular point of contact who we can get in contact with whenever is needed, and to walk through and flag things for them, make sure training's up to date. If there are complaints, we can go right to a single individual. So this is a very structured environment that we're creating as part of this ecosystem. So advertising and signage, additional requirements will be coming. However, businesses will have to be in compliant with all additional signage that might come out from the Office of Cannabis Management. For external signage, you are limited to 2 signs. There's no imagery, logos, or symbols. You cannot advertise giveaways, so no loyalty programs, no highlighted price reductions on the menu. You can change the price. However, you wouldn't be able to highlight that or make it a big deal. We kind of want to keep this where it's not incentivizing people to come, but they can certainly understand where the prices are before they go to the store and when they're in the store. External signage, it's again limited to 2, and we do have some internal signage, which can have some basic required information, hours of operation, and the required warning signs as well. So I just want to emphasize the signage is, you're not going to find a 7-foot tall cannabis leaf in neon above these stores. Nothing like that will come. These stores are designed from the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act to the proposed regulations we have to blend into the community and not to be eyesores or to stick out. A lot of our push here has to do with learning from the tobacco industry, the methods they took to appeal to children, and us trying to avoid that the best we can. Sales and transactions. So again, prices do have to be on menus with the tax included. Not advertising giveaways. In other words, saying, sale or discount price drop. Again, we don't want to be pulling in individuals and incentivizing buying for those reasons. There is age verification. An individual will have to be 21 years of age to come in. There is a right of refusal for sales. So if someone working there, they do have the right to say no to an individual if they feel that something is off or isn't quite right. Customer education. We know a lot of people going into these stores will not have years of knowledge or any knowledge of what the different kinds of products are. Someone might not know the difference between a tincture and flour. And we're going to make sure that the employees at these stores will be able to walk individuals through what they're looking at, the effect it can have in their body, how long it takes, so that no one is surprised or kind of taken aback once they go into these stores and are buying something possibly for the first time. So with that, thank you for joining and thank you for the invite. I do want to flag 2 additional emails for any upcoming events you would like OCM to be aware of. events@ocm.ny.gov is where you can send that. Additionally, if you'd like to receive some regular updates from the Office of Cannabis Management, if you go to our website, cannabis.ny.gov, you just have to scroll down a little bit and you'll see a place to sign up for regular updates from us. So with that, I will stop sharing here. And unless we've answered everything.
Actually, so I did. Hi, Philip. My name is Marisol. I'm the Director of Community Boards for the Queens Borough President's Office. So I did want to kind of go over the questions that were sent to our office that haven't been answered. And this is mostly relating to community boards and kind of what their role is. So I'll start reading out the questions, and if you just kind of want to answer them quickly, that would be great. So the first question is, what official role will community boards play in the sitting and approval of denial of dispensaries?
So Adam, actually from our office, he is the magic behind all the links that are popping up in the chat. He just put in a 2 links to documents. I would direct people to that. Additionally, these documents were emailed to the community board and the borough president's office about a week, anywhere between a week or 2 weeks ago. So the community board, the role is similar to that of SLA. The applicants come before the community board, and the community board provides the Cannabis Control Board with their advisory opinion if the person should have a retail dispensary, or when we get to that point, on-site consumption at the location that they've chosen in that community. And our Cannabis Control Advisory Board will take that under advisement, for the final decision. And so that's the process for the MRTA licenses. For the conditional licenses, these people have already been provided a license provisionally. And so they will come before the community board, and they have to, and in both licenses, they have to provide 30-day notice. And that's in the documents as well, in the links that Adam just put into the chat. So for the conditional adult retail dispensary licenses, these people are conditionally licensed. They provide the community board with 30-day notice, and the community board will do the same process. You hear it, whatever committee that it comes under, and then you provide an advisory opinion to the Cannabis Control Board.
Okay, so that kind of answered the second question. The third is, and I don't know if OCM is familiar with the liquor license, the way it's handled, but how would the process be similar or different? Boards review and make recommendations from liquor licenses. And if you don't know that process, please feel free to say that you don't know.
So I am somewhat familiar with that process. again, for the MRTA licenses, I think the similarities are stronger. There's more connective tissue between the two. Because the person will have to come before the board prior to being licensed. With the conditional licenses, again, they're conditionally licensed, and they come to the board with their location already and everything. So I think that's the biggest difference.
Okay. The fourth question is, so
Actually, sorry, real quick, I just want to flag one other distinction is that there's really almost a dual step process in issuing for liquor, where the state can give permission and then the local municipalities can as well. For cannabis licenses, New York State is the only authority that can issue or not issue a license. And that's where the advisory role of the community board comes in. The community board, when you send in your analysis and advisory of the proposed individual and location, that will be one element that is used by the Cannabis Control Board to determine whether or not a license is given. However, it is New York State and only New York State that can issue or not issue a license, where SLA, it's more of a dual process.
okay. I'm going to move to the next question. Is there a mention of saturation when it's too many dispensaries within a geographical area with respecting to sitting in the legalization legislation? This is accounted for with group homes.
Pascal, you want me to?
Yeah, because I like your Starbucks comment.
Yeah, so we've really since day one have had the Starbucks effect in the back of our minds, where we didn't want to make it so every time you turned a street corner, you would see another cannabis dispensary the way you might a Starbucks. We did not want to saturate the market, and we've taken a few steps. Some of the basic ones that kind of influence this is that in the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA, there is a 200-foot distance from churches and a 500 from school grounds. In addition, in the proposed regs, and to your point, we have a 1,000-foot radius from the dispensary around the dispensary. And so there's going to be a 1,000-foot radius between dispensaries at minimum. And that's a primary way that we're making sure these things are not saturated. It doesn't do anyone any good if you're in the most urban part of the state or the most rural part of the state to have oversaturation in anyone's community. And if that happens, it's not good for the growers, it's not good for the processors, and it's certainly not good for the dispensaries. They will kind of cannibalize themselves in the marketplace. So we are taking that into account, making sure that the 1,000-foot radius is taken into account, so that we don't see that effect and we can have a healthy and thriving cannabis ecosystem.
I would also like to add, I think that the impetus behind that question is the proliferation of illicit shops. And in some communities, you'll see, we got an email the other day where in a jurisdiction upstate, there's a store that will be in between two illicit shops. And so those are not licensed entities. And as Phil talked about in his enforcement portion of the presentation, we are aggressively and diligently working with the New York City Sheriff's Department, as well as the NYPD, to go after these illicit shops and the operators. And so it's really important that we don't kind of put all of these dispensaries in the same bucket. So what Phil is talking about, the distance from churches, the distance from schools, the radius around, those are for the licensed dispensaries. For the illicit dispensaries, we're again aggressively working with NYPD and the New York City Sheriff's Department so that we can shut those down, because those are not licensed. The products that they're selling to New Yorkers are not properly tested. And there's been articles from independent, not from OCM, but independent labs that have and organizations that have, you know, had those products tested, and there's lead, there's salmonella, and all sorts of other elements that are not good for the human body to consume. And so not only are these stores, you know, skirting the taxes, but it's also causing a public health concern, because we don't know what the impact is of smoking something with you know, toxins and chemicals in the body, right? Anecdotally, we know it's bad, but what it specifically does, we don't know. And so again, these are for the regulated dispensaries, and we're aggressively working with NYPD and the New York City Sheriff's Department to shut down the illicit dispensaries.
Okay, so I think the next question I think is, may customers sample a product within the dispensary? I think based on your presentation, no, correct? You can't
Correct.
do any promotions, you can't offer any samples, you can't do any types of advertising outside of the business, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the last question that I have from the ones that were submitted, may dispensaries sell edibles? Must edibles have labels which show the amount of cannabis THC in each portion?
Yes, all the products have to be properly labeled. And when the consumer goes into the dispensary, the bud tenders are there, they're knowledgeable staff. And these people will work with the consumer to ensure that they are getting the product that they want. And actually our new public health campaign is Why Buy Legal? And it talks about, you know, why it's important to buy from regulated dispensaries, and, you know, to start to go slow, right? So start at a lower level, so that, you know, of THC, so that you don't, you don't consume too much. And so, you know, you see how your body reacts to it, because there's a lot of people who are kind of curious. And so these are people who may not necessarily engage in recreational cannabis and are curious to see, hey, what would this feel like? And so definitely, you know, that's one of the reasons why we did the, you know, Start Slow and the Why Buy Legal campaign. Phil, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
No, I mean, I would just say that one of the most important selling points we have to counter the illicit, again, the brick and mortar illicit market and others, is to have properly labeled products, tested products, clean products. So yeah, as far as people looking at a package and knowing what they're getting, it will be abundantly clear for sure.
Okay, so we're done with the portions of the questions submitted. The borough president will jump on now and we'll take the questions from the people that are up. So I'll pass it over to the borough president.
You hear me? My audio good?
Yeah, we hear you.
Pascal, I'm just disappointed, so I can't taste test gummies.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, good morning. And I want to thank you for a very in-depth presentation. And, you know, obviously this is going to be a work in progress as it evolves and turns into a full program, but definitely appreciate us finally taking this issue head on, because we all know about the disparities around marijuana usage in the city and around arrests and summonses. So this is one way, of course, to make sure that we're addressing that. And obviously we hope that the federal government eventually takes it up as well. I guess the one question I had, and I'll leave the rest of the questions for the board, the district managers, are so the community fund, has there been any rulemaking established around that? And I'm particularly interested in that because the 105th led the city in summonses and arrests for like 2 decades. And we want to make sure that as that community reinvestment fund comes online, that the communities most impacted certainly are not only getting contracts, of course, in working through being able to sell, being able to market, all the different facets of the program, but also how are we ensuring that social equity fund is being distributed, and are we talking to organizations, and how will what will that structure look like in terms of reinvesting back into the communities with the funding that we're going to see come down the pipeline through the revenue generated.
So Adam dropped a link in the chat about the social and economic equity, the fact sheet. I will say I'm not surprised that that's your question, because I know that this has been a passion for you since you were in the city council, making sure that equity is at the forefront of everything that you do. So not surprised with that question. So our Cannabis Advisory Board, they've met twice, and they are in the process of, working on what all of this will look like. Additionally, we have one open dispensary. Housing Works was the first dispensary across the state, opened in Lower Manhattan. And so, as we're kind of bringing dispensaries on, we'll have a better sense of, what the sales taxes will look like across the state, and what pool of money that the Cannabis Advisory Board will be able to, will have it to do these community grants. And our equity team is also working on this. And so the fact sheet, I think, as we're kind of building, I like to say we're building the plane, we're flying it, we're serving cocktails. So as we're kind of doing all of those pieces, the best kind of source of information right now would be the social and equity fact sheet. And so it gives an overall an overview of it, and then also what are the what participation in the cannabis industry and everything else. So it's not a clean answer,
Okay.
but we are.
I just wanted to let you know, right? That's on my mind. And then I had studied, obviously, in my capacity as public safety chair, did a lot of work around this. Oakland, and I'm hoping that our program will be better than any. And we're moving in the right direction. I will say that. Mm-hmm. Still a lot of work to be done in terms of access to capital, because what we're getting a lot of questions. And I'm telling you, I go in the barbershop, like people are like, how do I get involved? How do I get engaged? How can I become a part of this? Even for some of the business owners who run barbershops, I'm just using that as an example. Mm-hmm. That's one of the question. So, they run businesses. I think you have to run a business for 2 years. What does that look like in terms of outreach to some of the local communities who may want to be involved?
So for the conditional adult retail dispensary license, that opportunity is closed now, and we are starting to issue the licenses. We have an amazing equity team, and they continue to curate opportunities for social equity applicants. And so there are different things that they're curating. There is a mentorship program that they pulled together. The application for that actually has also closed. But we did outreach extensively, sending information to electeds and community partners, and also both our community outreach team as well as our equity team really work closely with the legacy market, because we really want to make sure that we bring the pre-licensed operators into the regulated market. A lot of them have wonderful experience as it relates to growing the plant, creating a delivery system, and even potentially running a dispensary. So we continue to work with, the pre-regulated legacy operators to, again, bring them into the fold. And many of them did apply across the state for the card applicant license. And many of them also applied for our mentorship program. And so we continue to curate. And as we curate more of those opportunities, we definitely will continue to share out, and we'll make sure that, your office has the information, because again, having worked with you in the past, you are everywhere. And so I know that you will, you'll go into places and have conversations with people that we may not be in touch with. And so definitely we'll make sure that Queens is properly informed. And additionally, as you know, our executive director lives in your borough.
Yep.
And so he will make sure that his borough is well taken care of as well.
All right, thank you. I'll turn it back over to Maricela.
I'll start with the questions. So let's keep it under a minute so they can have time to respond. Then we can jump to our next presentation. First is Florence, then Frank, then Marie, and then Christian. Florence.
Hi. Thank you,
Florence.
Maricela.
This is Pascal. We've been talking on the phone, so it's nice to see you.
You too. It's been a pleasure. You're well informed, and I love learning from you. So I'll give you 3-part questions. My interest is in the zoning code, the nuisance laws, and the health laws. Having great experience being in an entertainment area where we have a lot of nightlife, I want to make sure that we will be able to use those laws to the best of our ability. I did put in the chat that I would like that all community boards at some point get sheriff's contact information, because you can't reach them. It's very difficult. And that we're able to work with each borough should have one single rep. I mentioned this to you privately. My other question leans to police local enforcement for the people who are operating without a license. We say we want to, no disrespect, we say we want to stay away from police enforcement. And I know, working with like the Department of Consumer Affairs and what have you all these years, because I had the most unenclosed sidewalk cafes prior to the pandemic. Every time something new comes about, we always lean it on the police. Then we don't want the police informed and involved, but then the police are involved. Isn't there some way that your agency can provide jobs to people and have your enforcement teams have some kind of real power authority without having to give this yet another job to the police department? And my final question is, just as the borough president said, my district has a lot of areas where we should be getting some of that grant money and funding, because we have high disparity in my district, and my people want a piece of the pie. So here, my big question is, the monies that come in from the taxes, will they go to schools? Will the children in the schools in lower socioeconomic areas benefit? Or is the money, when you say education, going to be based on marijuana, cannabis education? Because my feeling is our youth and the schools prevent drug use. And if they want to use recreational marijuana when they're 21, that's different. But the benefit, we're doing all these sin taxes. We're legalizing sports. We're legalizing casinos and marijuana. Frank, please wait. But what are the children benefiting? The school system. The lottery money was supposed to go to schools. It never went there. Can we see this really go to our children for their future in schools?
Thank you, Florence.
Thanks. Sorry.
So I'll start with the last part. And Phil and I will tag team on your 3-part answer. So as it relates to the grants, remember that slide 40, 40, 20.
Yeah.
So 40% will go to education. And then 40% will go to community reinvestment grants, and will go to the communities that were disproportionately impacted by prohibition. And then 20% will go to drug treatment and education. And so when we say drug treatment and education, it's drug treatment and then drug education. So that's why you hear education in 2 portions. So that first 40% is supposed to go to schools.
Okay.
Okay. And then as it relates to the grants and awarding based on the communities, again, I can't say enough about our equity team. They really, really are. I'm going to age myself. They're dope. And so they really gathered information from across the state and really looked at numbers of arrests and for cannabis and things like that, and really have a good sense of where all the inequities occurred around cannabis arrests. And so we have that information. We also have a really amazing data team that works that works in the agency and are able to help suss out all that information. So all of these things are kind of coming together and coalescing so that when it is time for the grants, we can make informed decisions. We can provide the community advisory board with updated information, correct information, so that informed decisions can be made. We anecdotally know what communities were disproportionately impacted, but we also know from data.
Okay, so we're gonna pass it on to Frank. You're next, and then so it's Frank, Marie, Christian, Giovanna, and then Lynette.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you. Listen, I believe and I hear everything that you guys are doing, and I really do appreciate it on behalf of all the community boards. I did have one little baby question. The weight, how much weight is put on? I know we are advisory with regard to our opinion on the licenses, but roughly, what kind of weight do we carry with this? I mean, we are the people, the grassroots people in the neighborhood. I'm just wondering on that. And I did have a community board ask me to write, community board 9 asked me to ask you also. Apparently Manhattan has some kind of hotline. I think Flo mentioned we can't even get a hold of the sheriff's office. And last but not least, my big problem here, people don't understand these legal smoke shops that are popping up on every other block with big pictures of a leaf on it. And people are confused. What's legal, what's illegal? I understand that, but they're all legal smoke shops that are pretending to be dispensaries. I have myself a Curaleaf right off of Austin Street in the busiest part of Forest Hills. They've been there for years. They run a wonderful, clean operation. You would not know it's even there. It happens to be on the famous Restaurant Row. I hope that they're all like that at one point in time, but the hotline question, the weight question, the legal smoke shops that are pretending to be dispensaries. If you could help me with some of that stuff, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Sure, Phil, why don't you take the weight question?
You muted, Phil.
Excuse me. I'll figure out the mute button eventually. It might take a few more months. The weight question, we don't have a specific percentage or something along those lines that I can give you that it'll be weighed 15% towards the recommendation or 50%. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act says that the Cannabis Control Board can will take into account the advisory opinion from the community board or the municipality. It doesn't give a specific percentage or anything like that of how much weight. It will just be one of a few other factors that they have to weigh before issuing the license. So again, I can't really get too much more specific than that. And until we see a few more licenses come in, and we can take it from there. But as you said, it is an advisory role, so it will just be one element that they take a look at. Pascal, did you want to do the other ones, or do you want me to?
You can take Curaleaf.
As far as what is legal and illegal, I think that's an issue that New Yorkers across the state are dealing with right now, as we see that explosion in brick and mortar stores. one, we certainly hope that our, as every new legal dispensary comes online and begins selling, we certainly hope that our efforts in, let's say, legacy media, our efforts in new media, social media, will get the word out of where they can go and where they can buy from. Additionally, we do have a large sticker that individuals can put on their legal dispensary, and it's a QR code. You can snap a photo of it, and it's going to give you information on that dispensary. And that's going to be one way where people will be able to identify that, yes, this is a legal location. I also think if you go anywhere near a place and it has neon signs and things that look a little abnormal, should be a red flag. And I think as we move forward, building this ecosystem, getting more shops online, the distinction is going to become very clear of what's legal and what's not. The QR code alone, but also the way they look, what their signage looks like, things like that. So I do think the distinction is going to grow and will help people identify better places. As far as the sheriff's department number, I mean, I could talk to some of our people here in enforcement to see if there is a direct line, or when you say you want to get in contact with a sheriff, is that to flag illicit stores and sites? I would also rely on the complaints email that we have. That does kick in the investigation on our end. And we partner with sheriffs across the state, but certainly in New York City when we are thinking about maybe going into a location to confiscate things. But again, I would rely much more heavily on the complaints email. And otherwise, I mean, I can ask if they have a sheriff's number. I'm up in Albany. It does seem like 311 is something that just comes out of everyone's mouth when you're trying to find information, but apparently the sheriff office is not on 311. So, I can ask.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, we have 10 minutes and then we have a second presentation. So I have a list of names. So next is Marie, Christian, Giovanna, Lynette, Yvonne, and then Debbie, and then we will hopefully try to wrap that up in 10 minutes. So Marie, you're next.
Thank you for this important information, Board President and OCM. I'll be very quick. Wanted to know if there's a standard form that they must use to notify us. And if so, we'd like to see what it looks like, just so we can see what the questions that they are being asked. And also, is there a direct email address for us to send our recommendations, just like we do with SLA?
I can actually take the first part of that, Pascal. So I actually sent that to you directly in the chat box, the form, but I'll send it to everyone as well. So that is the form that's going to be sent to the municipality.
Thank you, Adam. Christian, you're next.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So thank you.
I'm
I'll
so
try to keep
sorry
it short as possible.
to interrupt. My second question was not answered. There's going to be a direct email address for us to send our recommendations.
The recommendations right now have to be mailed, from my understanding. You have to physically mail the recommendation in.
That won't work because it cuts into a 30-day.
Okay, with their, do we have, sorry, Adam, in the chat, do we have an email that is there?
As of now, that notice is sent only by mail. It has that, but it is going to our licensing division. I could check up and see if that is something that can be emailed. That's the first time it came up for sure.
Yeah, but before. Okay, someone's shaking their head, but you're muted, so I'm not sure what you're saying. Yeah.
I've asked a million times for the email because we're downstate. By the time the mail gets upstate, as Marie said, it eats into our time. We work hand in hand with state liquor and having full communication. This year, it's not going to matter. It's going to matter 2 years down the road. Everybody's good now. Everybody's well behaved now. What happens when everybody's serving 16-year-olds? You see what I'm saying? We have to be able to let you know what we see. We're here. You're not.
So,
Yeah, but you're talking about notification to municipalities. You're talking about like a complaint.
No, what happens is we're going to send you a response. You're going to say, what do we think about putting this guy with a license, correct? So we're going to come in and John Doe is going to come in and we're going to find out that over the last 3 years, 14 times John Doe served marijuana to a child 16 years old. We're going to write you and we're going to say, dear Office of Cannabis Management, in our experience, John Doe has served a minor 16 times. You're going to take this into consideration before you give them their license renewal, correct? Correct?
yes,
You're not allowed to serve a minor.
correct.
So when we respond from downstate to upstate, the mail takes over 9 days if you're lucky, if it doesn't get lost.
So right now there is no email. The only way to do it is via mail. We will talk to our licensing department and see what can be done. It might take a little time to circle back with an answer, but we will follow up and we'll circle back with the borough president's office and then they will communicate with all the boards. So thank you on that. And I just want to go back and just clarify, right? Manhattan does not have a hotline to the sheriff's department. But what happens is, when the complaints, when people email the enforcement email address and that's how, it kicks off. So I don't want you all to think that Manhattan is getting something that you're not getting. They do not have a hotline to the sheriff's department.
All right, so I'm sorry to not have answered that question, Ray. So I think we're good. We'll move on with Christian.
Hey, Marcella, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. So, look, I'd like to preface mine by something that I heard, and many of my colleagues heard many years back from the State Liquor Authority himself, or rather, Tom Jones, said that the State Liquor Authority is in the business of giving liquor licenses. And I'll never forget that because they rattled us all. They made every community board in the room just shake, saying, wow, it's literally a business to them. So advisory-wise, it's obvious that we'll have a very little say in it. My concern more so is, and for those who don't understand the process with community boards, is we only handle on-premise consumption of liquor licenses, which meant retail stores, bodegas down the street, supermarkets do not come to us. What's happening now is it seems that we have jurisdiction over the off-premise consumption of marijuana in this case, but what happens down the line when we have smoke shops start popping up? Are we handling off-premise as well as on-premise? And it's a major, major, major concern that I have because of that, because right now it's treated as retail only. Somewhere down the line, smoke shops will begin to pop up, and I am curious, I understand a percentage can't be given because there's no algorithm for that, but is OCM in the business of giving cannabis licenses? Because if that's the case, then the community board's involvement should be pretty minimal if it's just going to get passed on, like the State Liquor Authority stated. It is a two-part question. I have several questions, but the other one is more so, how are we differentiating between THC consumption in public and CBD consumption in public? I'd like to think that somebody should say, well, no, there's nothing in this. It's just CBD. It's nothing. It just makes me feel really nice. I can drive with this. I can walk around with this. How is it differentiated? Because something that I've asked the precinct several years over, they look, they laugh, and they go, we don't know. So it's just, how is that supposed to differentiate between one and the other? But again, my main emphasis before even that question comes is, how are you different from the State Liquor Authority in how much power you're giving to the boards? And I know it was asked already, but what happens down the line when smoke shops for on-premise consumption come up, where it becomes a recreational thing, and what is our say in that as well?
So when you say smoke shops, I believe what you're talking about is on-site consumption.
Correct. And again, yeah, that's exactly correct.
Okay.
It's on-site consumption and off-site, because again, with the State Liquor Authority, with community boards, be clear, I'm sorry, it's just that we only handle on-site consumption. We do not do grocery stores and whatnot, but in this case with cannabis, it's different. We are doing on-site and off-site. Is that correct?
Correct. So for cannabis, the community board, people who want to have a dispensary come in, they have to come before the community board, and people who want to do on-site consumption come before the community board. So Christian, you're not going to like my answer, so I'm going to put it out there first, but we when we released our proposed regulations on November 21st, on-site consumption lounges were not part of that. So we are in the process of writing those regulations now. And so it will take us some time to write it and then to put them out. So I ask for patience on that, but do know for on-site consumption lounges, they will have to come before the community board.
Okay, and Maricela, I'm sorry, and I know we said that we were going to, go ahead. I'm sorry, I won't bog you down with 1,000 more questions.
Thank you, Christian. Next,
You got it.
Giovanna,
Thank
and
you.
then
Thank you.
Lynette, and then we're wrapping it up with this presentation.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having this forum. There are very many questions from my community, and so I'm glad that we have this resource this morning. Quick question. Which agency will be responsible for bringing those illegally operating sites into compliance? And does OCM have a database already of operations that are operating illegally?
Yeah, well, one, I wouldn't say that there is one entity that is going to be going after these illicit sites. I would say there are several, including at the constituent individual level. We have to hear from an individual that they have seen or aware of this a store. Again, in the chat, there should be some, if possible, some criteria we would like to get when you send it to the complaints email. And so it really starts with the individual. It can start with really and virtually any entity above the individual. It can be a community board member or officially from a community board. It can be from anyone reporting it. Once it's reported, OCM, as I said, opens up a investigation into it. They want to make sure this is real. We certainly don't want to go after someone's bodega when they're not doing this. Once we establish that, we work with local law enforcement. OCM is not becoming a mini drug enforcement agency. We're not looking to replace what was done in decades past. So we would work with local law enforcement and also the taxation department, especially if our legislation goes through, that will give us more teeth in the taxation department. All of these entities come together to kind of crack down on the illicit shop. So many entities are involved with making sure that the illicit shops are taken care of. And I think our legislation will help tremendously in cracking down on them.
So thank you, Philip. One last question. I'm going to give it to Yvonne. I don't know if Yvonne, you had a question.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Yvonne.
Yes. Well, part of my question was the same question that Chris had asked about the smoke shop, because in my district now the smoke shops are popping up all over the district, and that's one of our concerns.
Yes, and we continue to, again, work with the Sheriff's Department and the NYPD so that we can, address these illicit shops. And the previous question said to bring those shops into compliance. There is no quote unquote bring them into compliance. These people would have to apply for a license. And there's no kind of grandfather clause or anything. They have to apply for a license. And if we first start with a cease and desist letter. If they continue and we get complaints of continued activity, then again, we are part of a joint task force with the NYPD and the Sheriff's Department. And our investigators, we have an amazing investigation team, our enforcement team. They really do their due diligence, and it is an investigation like any other. And so when the complaints come in, we can't give updates on where they are in the investigation. Even internally, we don't get updates because they don't want to do anything to jeopardize the investigation. And so want to also manage expectations. You send in the complaints, we're not going to be able to tell you where they are in that process. But we do use investigatory measures. We've been successful in this joint task force in seizing product, in forcing shops to close down. So if we do a cease and desist and the people just continue, they jeopardize their ability to enter the regulated market. But there is no quote unquote bring them into compliance. They must apply like everybody else.
Because I have a case where they open up, it's like one in every block. It's unbelievable.
So, with the information that Adam put in the chat, please, you know, and Phil and I have said this throughout, please use that, not only the email, but also the information, as much information as you can possibly give. And if you can get a picture, great, but we're not asking people to jeopardize their safety to get a picture. But the more information our investigators have, the less back and forth they have to engage in to get information. And so they are then able to start the investigation. And we will definitely flag, you know, you can, if you send just an address, that's fine, but just, you know, understand that they then have to just do more legwork to get the information needed. And so again, as much information as you can send will be helpful.
Thank you.
And Ms. Vaughn, I sent you an email. If you can just please check your email.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Sounds good, everybody. Thank you, Pascal, Philip, and Adam for joining us. We're going to move on to the next portion of our cabinet meeting. I am going to introduce the presentation for the neighborhood rat prevention. This presentation will introduce the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Pest Control Services, and Rat Prevention Strategies. Here to present on behalf of DOHMH is Community Coordinator Martha Verrazana.
Wait, Maricela. And
Sorry.
let me thank Pascal. Pascal and I go back a long way. We have some phenomenal people in charge of this program. So let me just say that. I don't know you, Philip, but I'm sure I'll get to know you. But Pascal and my other brother from South Queens, I trust to do the right thing until they break that trust.
We're not gonna break it.
But I'm really proud to see you all leading this effort and look forward to the work ahead. So thank you for coming, and I'm sure we'll have you back as things continue to evolve. So thank you for coming. And Maricela, I really stopped you because you're supposed to use the mayor's theme. I hate rats. We're like, we hate rats. We want to kill rats. Rats are the enemy. All right.
Thank you for having us. We're just gonna jump off, but thank you so much.
Good to see you.
All
You
right.
got to throw that in there, Maricela.
Okay. You noted. I thought we were all on the same page, but I guess I have to emphasize that. All right, Martha, the floor is yours. Martha?
All right, I'm up. I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Martha Vernaza from the New York City Health Department. I am the community, let me share my screen, sorry. I am the community coordinator and also the outreach and education team lead for pest control services. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Can you all see my screen? I'm not.
We see your screen.
We see your screen.
Okay. So at Pest Control Service in the New York City Health Department, we want to improve quality of life. We want to reduce commensal rodent populations. We want to do this through pest management activities. to prevent rodent bites, improve quality of life for New York City. I know right now rats are a big problem. At Pest Control, our activities include responding to complaints. I'll get into how to make those complaints. We have inspectors who conduct proactive inspections on city-owned property as well as privately owned properties. We promote best practices for rodent management. We educate neighborhoods. I'm sorry. Okay, how's that? Better.
Much better.
Sorry, guys. Thank you. We educate neighborhoods, and we do have licensed exterminators, pest management professionals who provide pest management. And also we share our information through our New York City Rat Information Portal, which I'll also get into. At the Health Department, Pest Control Services, we do have neighborhood rat prevention strategies. We try to reduce rats' access to food waste through waste management, promoting the proper cleaning of sidewalks, removing of litter. We promote organics recycling through the Department of Sanitation. At the Health Department, we also have a stoppage team, which pest proofs public spaces. We work on tree wells. We work alongside other agencies like the Department of Parks and Recreation, for our green streets, our community gardens. Also, we distribute rodent-resistant containers through our rat academies, and I'll get into those. And at the Health Department, we also provide treatment when necessary. We recommend treatment when necessary for working with licensed pest control professionals, exterminators who are particularly versed in IPM, integrated pest management, so that they are choosing the best treatment methods and are providing the appropriate, frequent, necessary a follow-up and treatment. And then our program does do inspections and follow-ups up on those inspections. Pest Control Services does also participate in a lot of outreach activities. We do walkthroughs with neighborhood associations when requested. We do neighborhood assessments and profiles. We provide trainings for multi-family buildings, building managers, supers, management companies of buildings. We do trainings for gardeners and composters. We work alongside BIDs, business improvement districts, and businesses. We do also work with schools and daycares. We work alongside tree pit stewards who voluntarily manage and take care of our tree pits. And also we work alongside other agencies, parks, schools, sanitation, to provide training. And also oftentimes we invite, for example, the Department of Sanitation to attend our trainings so that questions regarding garbage can be addressed, because of course garbage brings the rats. We do have our rat information portal, which can be accessed through our website, nyc.gov/rats. Our website provides a lot of information, a lot of resources in a lot of languages. So it's a great resource. It's a great place to just stop in for your basic general knowledge of what you may be questioning. But also at our website, you're able to find our rat information portal, which is our map of inspections, and I'll get into a little bit more of that in later slides. We do have brochures, posters, and fact sheets, which are available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And we do have neighborhood rat initiatives as a part of our rat outreach activities. So we do our community-sponsored Rat Academy. I teach the Rat Academy. We have block associations, elected officials, bids, business improvement districts, community groups, community centers, and also community gardeners who reach out to us so that they may sponsor our academies, our Rat Academies, our Rat Academies are trainings for learning about rat management, rat prevention, and how to prevent and manage rats through IPM practices. We are regularly having Rat Academies. We have 2 Rat Academies scheduled for this month. We're scheduling February, March, April. In the spring, we do a lot of gardening events. We have also opened up to in-person academies. Last year, I believe we did 7 academies in Queens, and we would love to work more in Queens in getting our information out to communities. As far as businesses goes, we also have resources for businesses. We have a couple of fact sheets, how to reduce pests when offering outdoor dining, the IPM, Integrated Pest Management Model Scope of Service, and how to select a pest management company, a pest management professional as a business owner, as a multi-dwelling owner. You are by law expected to hire a licensed pest control professional. So this is a great guide about how to best select one. We also have best practices for pest proofing food service establishments. We have this brochure available in several languages as well. So the best way to submit a rodent complaint is through 311. You want to include as much information as possible, including information about yourself. Sometimes our 311 operators don't get the right information, don't get enough information, and we want to be able to process these complaints appropriately. Detailed information, specific information is important so that our inspectors can go out there and perform a successful inspection of the property. Also, leaving detailed information about yourself is important when making a complaint. In the event that our inspectors cannot access a space that is not open to the public, our inspectors can reach out and coordinate the inspection so that they may gain access and make the proper inspection. This is just a screenshot of a complaint using the website, but of course you all know that there's the app you can call. So 311 is the best place to make your complaints. Maybe before making your complaint, you would want to visit our rat information portal, because complaints duplicate if they're made within 30 days. You want to go to the map and you want to make sure that there's not an open complaint or that the property has not been recently inspected, so that your complaint doesn't dupe out. What you can do is visit our website, click on our rat information portal. You can, I happen to look up a neighborhood. So I looked up Briarwood. You can see green is a past inspection, pink is a rat activity at the last inspection, so a failed inspection. Purple is a failed for other, and other can be conditions conducive to rat activity. So improperly disposed garbage, harborage conditions, overgrown vegetation. This darker gray properties are properties that have not been inspected in the last 6 months. You click on a property. I clicked on 8235 134th Street here. This property in particularly last was inspected in December 19th of last year. So very recently, this property passed inspection. There's a job ID number. If for whatever reason you go on this map and you have additional questions or need more information, you can email us ratportal@health.nyc.gov with this job ID number so that we can provide additional information about the property. Is it still waiting for a compliance inspection? Is there additional information as to why they failed? We are definitely willing to answer all questions. You can also turn on this toggle here and select a community board so you can get a kind of a capture of what's going on in your community board as a whole, some problem areas. So definitely the rat information portal is a great place to start in terms of maybe I want to know what's going on in a specific area, and maybe I want to follow up with something that is already going on as per the map, or I don't see any activity, everything is gray. I want inspections to happen. Then you move on to your 311 complaint. We do have rat prevention guides. Our guides are available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese. These are available through 311 ordering. So we do have a lot of resources. We look to get as much information out into the community because rat prevention, rat management is it takes a village, it takes community effort, and the more people we can get our information out to, the more constituents we work with, the better to get that village to work together. So again, my name is Martha Vernaza. My email is on the screen. We also have our rat portal email where you can send all of your questions, concerns, inquiries. And then again, our website, nyc.gov/rats, you reach our map, our rat information portal through our website.
Thank you so much, Martha.
Welcome.
We just have one follow-up question from Florence that she DM'd. And if you have any additional comments, Florence, let me know. Advertising for rat academies sometimes are not seen on social media until after they occur. Early notice or social media is necessary. JPEGs to community board offices need to share information.
So when we are planning, we require 3 weeks lead time for planning a rat academy. When we are planning our rat academy, we develop a flyer.
We don't get them.
When we are planning a rat academy, we develop a flyer. So Florence, if we are coordinating to do a rat academy together, we'll develop the flyer and we'll pass it along to you, to the community board or whatever it may be, so that you can spread the information either through your own social media outlets or through your partners. But this is your sponsored event and you're responsible for getting the information out to your community members.
Martha, can I jump in, please? A lot of us have been with city government for numerous years. We are the original 311. Before there was a telephone system called 311, everybody called the community board office and we took the complaints. And then 311 came up through several different mayors many, many years ago. When people call 311 and their complaints are not addressed quickly, they call us and they yell at us and they blame us that the work isn't being done. While you did a magnificent presentation, everything you told us today, we know. We've known this for many years. What we need as community board leadership from you is ways that we can get more information out, ways that you can help us to get answers quicker, more people in the health department to be able to reach so we can do our own follow-up. We all know how to use the health department website. We all know how to use the Rat Academy. But if there's a Rat Academy on social media where you do something on YouTube, even if it's not in Queens, somebody from Queens is going to watch it. I have a person on my board who's rat obsessed, and they never have seen a Rat Academy. And I tell them, I forward all of them, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens. I put it on my social media page because the message is the same no matter what the neighborhood is.
Right.
The Rat Academy doesn't change. The problem is when I go today and the Rat Academy happened yesterday, it does me no good to see it on YouTube today. You're advertising a Rat Academy that happened yesterday. This isn't once. This isn't twice. It's happened many, many times. I'm very active on Facebook and Twitter. I do Facebook and Twitter every single day. It's the only way to get messages out anymore. And what I'm just giving you a heads up, I'm not complaining or criticizing. I'm giving you a heads up that your great message, the wonderful work that you're doing, is not getting out there the way it should.
So thank you. Yes, we do an email blast every month saying our upcoming events. We do have our sponsors share to their social medias for upcoming events. We have our scheduled events on our website. And you're right. I would agree with you with us promoting like on our Facebook page. There's been a lot of focus on all of the other things going on in the health department. So Rat Academy isn't as highlighted in our Facebook page. But when we collaborate with community boards and bids or whoever our sponsor may be, even the smallest community group, our expectation is that they are getting the information out to their area, right? Because we want them to work within their community to get as many people from their own community to get involved so that they're all on the same page. But yeah, we do have people from all over. We've had people from Canada, from Australia even attend our academies. And the best place to know when our events are coming up is again our website or our rat portal mailbox, rat portal at health.nyc.gov. I can add that to our chat.
Yeah, and if you can also add your contact information, so our DMs can reach out if they have any questions or if they'd like to follow up, or maybe they're not in an email blast that is being sent out by the Department of Health. But yeah. So does anybody else have any other questions? Seeing none, I want to thank everybody for stopping by and joining us. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 7th. Thank you to all the staff on behalf of the borough president, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.